In this video, we are going to discuss the game between Anish Giri versus Nikita Vitiugov played in the FIDE Grand Prix 2022 Leg 2 Belgrade, and this tournament is happening because the winner will be selected as the candidates, and there would be the candidates tournament, and the winner would be fighting it against Magnus Carlsen for the World Chess Championship title. This is what, so you can say this tournament is actually very critical for every chess player and also critical for every chess fan, because every chess player is going to uh, just give their all to win the game. So we have the round 2 of, there are like different pools in the tournament. So this is the game from the pool B. In the second round, Anish Giri versus Nikita Vitiugov. The game was very interesting, so let's check it out. So Anish with the white pieces started out the game with 1 e4. Black replied with e5. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop to c4. We have the Italian, and now we have bishop to c5, the Goku piano. Castle, knight to f6, ideas to castle and also preparing to capture the pawn. The white plays d3. b6, c3. White ideas could be to play b4, a4 expanding on the queen side, and also perhaps d4 in the future. So h6 by black, stopping this bishop from coming to g5 and pinning up the knight. White played rook e1, castle, knight to d2, a5, and now we have h3 by white. It's like all the very common stuff. It's all theory. You have perhaps definitely saw this position thousands of times. Bishop e6, and now in this position, white usually captures the bishop. And you must have found that after fe6 that many times white plays queen b3, hitting both the pawns. And it looks like, yeah, perhaps white is fine. Although black can defend both the pawns by playing queen c8, but a much better variation is to play queen e8, defending the e6 pawn. And actually, white cannot capture the b7 pawn because now the queen is trapped, because black is going to play bishop to b6. And now after rook a7, the queen is trapped. It's game over for white already. So yeah, this is all the theory. But after playing bishop e6, Anish decided to play bishop b3 is also one of the common moves, but Anish decided to play b3. His idea is that if bishop tries to capture the bishop, he's going to capture the bishop with the pawn. And now white is having a much more secure power in the center, and white is also having the open b file, so white is much favorable in the position. So after b3, black decided to play d5, opening up the position, opening up the center, because now c3 pawns looks a slight weakness, although it can't be targeted. Pawn takes, knight takes, hitting the c3 pawn, and now we have knight to e4, defending the c3 pawn and also hitting the bishop on f5, on c5, sorry. Bishop to b6, queen to d2. You see, white played queen d2 because black idea was to play f5, hitting the knight and then going for the capturing of the pawn on c3. That is the reason white played queen d2 to defend the pawn on c3. And now black played queen to c8. Perhaps looking for some sacrifices on h3. There could be some ideas, of perhaps even playing knight to f4. The sacrifice can come on g2 and h3. And the f4 square looks a very ideal square for the knight. White played knight to g3, securing, two knights near the king looks much safer for the white king. f6, cementing the pawn structure. d4. So Anish finally decided to open up the position by playing d4, and white idea is already capture the pawn and also putting pressure on the knight on d5. You cannot capture the pawn because the bishop, not because of the bishop. If you try to capture the pawn, I'm going to play queen to d3. This is the idea, and the reason I'm going to play queen d3 is my idea is to play queen e4, hitting the bishop with the rook and the queen, and also I'm hitting the knight on d5, and it's winning for black, winning for white. For example, if black continues by replying like queen d7, I can go for playing something like queen e4, putting pressure over here and here. And you can't capture this because rook into e6 is extremely strong. Queen e6, bishop to d5, and the queen is dead. There are many things that are happening in the position. So after d4, Anish simply made the game already very complicated. Black played queen to d7, and now we have bishop to a3 by Anish, hitting the rook on f8, and also developing the bishop, and it's the most ideal square for the bishop. Rook to f7. Black can also play rook to e8, but his idea was rook f7 protects the queen, and now he's going to bring another rook to e8. And now in this position after rook f7, Anish decided to play rook to e4, which is a fine move, but I think perhaps rook to d1, bringing another rook into the game, would have been a slight much more accurate, because white idea is already to capture the pawn on e5, and now there is a triple attack on the knight, and I think it's already very difficult for Nikita to react to this. But he played rook to e4, also complete fine move. a4. Black idea could be to perhaps capture the pawn on b3, and going for a exchange sacrifice on like capturing the bishop, because the bishop is extremely strong on the dark square. And perhaps even knight f5 could be an idea. b4 by white, taking away the square from the knight on a5 to capture the bishop. Knight f4, and now we have bishop into e6, capturing the bishop. And many of you are wondering that, like, after a4, why nobody is capturing the pawn on d5, e5? Why, like, both the players are having the options to capture the pawn, but nobody is capturing it. Like, for example, if white tries to capture in the position, then after knight takes, pawn takes, you already can say that you cannot capture the e5 pawn because rook into f7 comes, and now the queen is attacked, the bishop is protecting it. You see, the one who captures the pawn in the center is going to face the difficulty. That is the reason no player is trying to capture the center pawn. b4, knight to f4, bishop takes, knight takes, and like if you try to push this pawn to attack both the knights, I can play knight g5, and yeah, it's a fine position for black, because like, if you try to capture the knight, thinking like the knight is protecting the queen, but now comes knight into f3, check, pawn takes, queen takes, and black is winning. And if you try to capture the knight, I can simply play like fg5 or even hg5, perhaps even fine move. You can't capture the knight because the queen is hanging, and it's winning for black. So this is what's happening in the game. So we have rook to a to e1 by Anish Giri. Here doubling up the rooks. Knight to g5, knight into pawn into, and now we have b5 by white, hitting the knight, and also the bishop is extremely strong. Knight to a7, and now we have h4 by white. You see, you cannot defend the b5 pawn because the b5 pawn is double attacked. It's already very hard to defend the b5 pawn. So white played h4, and now white idea is already to capture the black g5 pawn and create weakness on the king. In the game, we have knight into b5, but a much better move I personally feel would have been to play g4, like keeping the position blocked so that now the queen is protecting the pawn, and it's a fine position for black. But pawn takes, and perhaps Nikita would be wondering that, like, the bishop have to move, because or if he tries to capture the pawn, I can simply capture the bishop. But actually, this is what happened. We have h5, and now you cannot capture the bishop, because now comes g6, a very well-known theory trap. White plus g6, taking away the squares of f7 and the h7. Black moved the rook, and now we have queen e2. Idea is to simply play queen h5, queen h7, queen h8, and black cannot even stop it. It's already winning for white completely. So knight into a3 was not played in the game. Nikita saw that because g6 is already very obvious move. So pawn takes, and now we have queen into g5. This is the point. Anish could have defended the bishop, but he saw that, yeah, a war cannot be won without sacrifices. So he went on to capture the pawn. And after knight into a3, black is simply a piece up for an extra pawn, perhaps. And that position is actually equal according to the engine, although it's extremely tough for black to continue the position and it's extremely smooth for white to continue the position. Now after knight into a3, the game went like rook to h4. White idea is to play queen g6, taking away the h7 square and threaten a mate on h8. Rook to e8, so far so good by Nikita, defending very well, finding the best moves. We have queen to h5, idea is to deliver a checkmate. Black played rook to f6 so that if white gives a check, he can run away with king f7. White played knight to e4, black played rook to f5, hitting the queen, and white played knight to g5. White idea is now to simply play queen h8 and it's already game over for black because the knight is covering the f7 and the h7 square. So black was forced to capture the knight on g5 for the rook. Queen takes and now white is an exchange up and yeah, white is at least better in the position. And after queen into g5, the best move in the position was to play knight to c4. The reason after knight c4 is, first of all, you prevent white from coming rook e3 and rook h3. Second, actually, the knight is on time, like playing knight to d6, knight to f7, or perhaps knight to f5, and knight is simply holding everything in the position. For example, rook e to e4, knight d6, rook g4. If white tries to attack like this, I can play knight f5 on time, and after rook h5, pawn takes, queen takes knight, queen takes rook takes, pawn takes, and like the material wise the position is equal to two pawn and the bishop for a rook, and it's equal position. So this is what happens if black tries to play knight to c4. But unfortunately, knight c4 was extremely hard to find because like there are so many moves. Like in this position, as endgames are full of moves. Yeah, any move can possible. c5 was played in the game. Now simply the game is completely changed down. Queen to g6. Ah, the bishop is attacked. The queen is coming on h7. Perhaps the rook can also come on h7. It's already over. Bishop d8 by Nikita, and now it's your chance. Feel free to pause the video. Try to find the move that Anish played in the game because after this move, Nikita simply resigned the game and Anish won. So feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move for Anish Giri from the white side. Okay, so I'm sure that this move was not an easy move to find. We have rook to h7 by Anish, and after playing rook h7, on the move number 32, Nikita Vitiugov with the black pieces resigned the game. You can all those who found rook h5, definitely it was also a winning move, but rook h7 is extremely strong, yeah? Like winning on the spot. The reason rook h7 is winning on the spot is, like after rook h7, my idea, or you can say the Anish Giri idea, is to simply play queen h5. Queen is simply covering the light squares, and I'm going to play simply rook to h8, and it's checkmate for the black king. It's game over. For example, if black still tries to continue the game by playing rook to e6 hitting the queen, I can play queen h5, and the only way for black to defend the position is to play rook h6. After playing rook h6, many of you are wondering that perhaps now the black is defending very well, but now comes queen into h6, and after gf6, gh6, rook captures the queen, and now it's already two rooks against two minor piece. It's already white is completely winning in the game. This is what happens if black tries to do this, which is the best defense, but this is also not working. If black tries to play something like queen e6, asking for a queen trade, queen g7 is checkmate for black. You see, if you try to play queen f7, I can play rook h8 check, king takes, queen, and the game is over. And there is no way you can continue anything in the game. Yeah, that was the reason after playing rook h7 on the move number 32, Anish Giri played a very well game and forced Nikita to resign the game. So far so good. Anish Giri is leading the second, you can say the B group in the FIDE Grand Prix. And in the C group, Vidit is the one who is leading the C group after beating two very strong players, Alexei Shirov and Vladimir. Uh, uh, I'm not getting the right name, but yeah, sorry about that. And sorry, Vladimir Fedosiev. He beat Vladimir Fedosiev, which was also an extremely strong game. You can also check that game out because I was thinking to make a video on that game or perhaps on this game. But yeah, this game was very well played by Anish Giri because he gave a very nice sacrifice of the bishop on e3 and he very well converted the game. And the game which also played was extremely strong and very interesting. You can also go and check out that game in the second round of the C group. So if you like this game and you have learned anything from this game, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, and make sure to subscribe the channel if you're new to my channel. And also click the notification bell because I'm always going to come up with these interesting videos like this. And I also post traps and gambits, so you can also go and check it out in my video section. So till then, stay tuned and keep watching OneShot Chess.